Hey everybody, good to see you. Julie and I are out here on our deck enjoying the first day of Sukkot along with our dogs. Miss Zoe right here and Feisty Ann is overlaying in another part of the deck, and little Bitty is still inside. And thought I would talk a little bit about Sukkot, or the Feast of Tabernacles. Now this is probably one of the smallest Sukkots that Julie and I have ever been a part of. This is a really scaled down year. We've had some of those, and we've had some where we went to big gatherings in different places in different states, and those are fun. And the small intimate ones are a lot of fun too, of sitting around the campfire. So if you haven't ever been a part of something like that, I would encourage you to find some folks and check it out. If you haven't ever heard of this, or even if you have, just a review, in the book of Leviticus chapter 23 there are 7 major festivals, not including the Shabbat or the Sabbath, but it talks about the Sabbath and basically 7 major festivals, Leviticus 23. And the final one is the Feast of Tabernacles, and these are what's called Shalosh Regalim, and which are the 3 pilgrimage festivals that all males were required to go up to Jerusalem during the time of Passover and unleavened bread, and during the time of Shavuot or Pentecost, and then the final time at the Feast of Sukkot, or Feast of Tabernacles, which is the one we're talking about today. And in the book of Leviticus it talks about that in the 7th month, on the 15th month, will be a holy convocation, a Mikra Kodesh. And so that's today. That's the first day of the Feast of Sukkot. And one of the things, that Julie and I were talking about a little bit, and I got to thinking about this year, because we can talk about the theology of it, and we can talk about the mechanics and cool things of it, and I love doing that. But there are certain things that are really difficult to communicate, I think, about the subject. And things have been like pretty brutally hot lately and dry here in Oklahoma. And immediately when Sukkot, it's like at the same time that Sukkot begins, we have a cold front come in, and we've got this beautiful weather today. And it's been wonderful out here on the deck with our little canopy erected out here, that we've been just enjoying the peace and relaxation with our dogs most all of the day. And that's a lot of what this festival is about going outside of your normal dwelling place, your house, and abiding under a temporary dwelling, a canopy, a tent, for 7 days. And then the 8th day is also a solemn assembly, a Mikra Kodesh, a holy convocation. And so the thing that I've been thinking about this particular festival is that in our society, so many of us are just worn out all the time. We're just I know, speaking from my own personal experience, I mean, just a lot of times there's things that I want to do, and there's even things that I have time to do. A lot of times we say, well, I just don't have time. For me, I've tried to modify saying that, because a lot of times I have time, I just don't have the energy for a lot of things, quite frankly. But when over the years I've begun thinking more and more about, and if you've listened to many of my teachings or presentations, probably if you've listened to very many of them, you've heard me talk about micro and macro, because from micro to macro we see a lot of the same mathematics in nature, and we see conceptually from micro to macro in the Bible a consistency of themes, from the least of the commandments to the greatest of the commandments. And you'll have to go back and listen to some of those to know more maybe of what I'm talking about. But on a typical day, most people, we work, or we do whatever we have to do during the day, and then at night we rest, or we try to rest, we try to sleep. And it's sort of a mini Sabbath. on a daily basis. And even within the day, we have times when we're working and we're occupied with things and we take a little break. We take a little rest, a little Sabbath. And then for many of us, we have learned about the Sabbath that God established at creation for man. And Yeshua, Jesus himself, said that man was made for the Sabbath, not man for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Sabbath rest is a gift from God, and it's something that we all need. But the thing that I began to think about more and more, and I've thought on this a little bit over the years, but I was just thinking about it particularly today, that we've got all of these increments of Sabbath, of stopping, of ceasing, that if we will become mindful of them and surrender to them, I think that we would be much more productive, complete, and whole and energetic as people.